what did you think of the Billy Break plant format in late 2011?
Well, in that format, that's actually when I got back into the game. I didn't have the opportunity to attend tournaments, unfortunately, but that's when I played a lot on Dueling Network. One thing that I can say that I loved about the format was its deck options. For example, obviously Tengu Plants, Dark Worlds, and this one wasn't as good, but especially Heroes. Even though they weren't necessarily at the top, I really liked the fact that my favorite cards can be, somewhat viable. But that's also, if I recall correctly, when Xyz monsters were still very new to the game. And it was definitely a very crucial step forward for the game to have a new mechanic like this. That would be, of course, supported with the introduction of cards like Rescue Rabbit and Tour Guide. And they quickly climbed to the top. And to me, it was like the way I saw it was like a battle between Synchros and Xyz, with obviously the favor going into the Xyz. Um, and key players like Lone Fire Blossom, Debris Dragon, and Formula Synchron, my bad, were all limited. It especially didn't help that the main boss monster of Dino Rabbids would pretty much be a solemn judgment on legs. But initially, I wasn't too opposed to these cards. So overall, I really enjoyed the format.
Okay, so what did you think about Order of Chaos and its support for windups and insectors? Did it completely change the game and was it too powerful?
I personally hated it. I hated playing against those decks. I especially hated the windup loop that was possible. And they really just, the decks felt out of place in a way. Dino Rabbit might have seemed kind of annoying to deal with, but it wasn't quite as annoying as these two. Windups and Exectors, I don't know quite exactly how to describe it, but it felt like that was the exact turning point where Yu-Gi-Oh! Just really started to lose its excitement for me. And that was the moment where new decks entirely lost their appeal. Out of these two, only once did I tried to pull off the wind-up loop. And when I saw how easily I was able to pull off something like that, I just lost great interest in the game. The decks were just too powerful at that point. They made me miss the previous decks that were on top prior to that, and I just really didn't want to play with any of these decks or against any of these because at that point I quite simply didn't really enjoy it.
All right, good answer. Just one thing for the other questions. Uh,
Sorry,
when when you answer the question, try to restate the question in the answer. So, like when I
you're
say
cutting off.
what, sorry, that's.
Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello?
I think you might be muted,
Hello? Can you hear me?
but I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, the connection was getting like just pretty bad. I couldn't hear anything you were saying.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably my fault. The internet's just not very good here. Um, so I just switched to like tethering from my phone because
Mm.
yeah. So anyways, I was just
Should
saying.
we
So yeah,
restart?
yeah. We luckily we kind of dropped in between two questions. So that's kind of nice. We didn't like interrupt one of the answers. So I was just saying that when you answer a question, just try to restate the question with the answer. So like if I say, "What did you think about Order of Chaos?" instead of saying, "I hated it," say, "I hated Order of Chaos" or "I liked Order of Chaos."
Okay.
Um,
Alright.
uh, all right. So third question: did it surprise you when TGs won YCS Atlanta 2012? Was the deck good or did it just get lucky? And did it need to be nerfed?
Yes, I was surprised actually that TG's won YCS Atlanta. I honestly thought that Dino Rabbit would for sure take the crown, and I personally definitely thought that TG's lucked out. I didn't think that it needed to be nerfed at all, considering the other more popular decks used at the event. In fact, I was actually very excited and curious what the March 2012 ban list would bring. I couldn't wait to see decks that deserve to be nerfed actually getting nerfed.
Okay, so what did you think about the ban list that was released after this event? It didn't touch any of the top three decks at all, those being Windups and Sectors and Rescue Rabbit. So was that a mistake?
So when I saw the March 2012 ban list, my first reaction was, there's another month till April. Surely this couldn't be an April Fool's joke, right? It totally didn't make any sense to me. Hitting cards that were already overwhelmed by the newer and more powerful stuff seemed like a total joke to me. At that point, I decided to play strictly heroes because nothing else really excited me out of the main stuff. Um, and so that's when I really started to think it was simply Konami's greed.
Sorry, I'm losing you. Um, again, it's probably my fault. Unfortunately, I can't
Just
do anything about
scratch
the shitty
the
internet here,
past that.
and I don't know if you can hear me either.
Well,
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. What, did the connection drop off
Yeah,
again?
yeah. The connection. It was my fault. Like my internet connection dropped. Um.
It's
So I got like maybe the first half of that answer.
I could just repeat it if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah. So I'll repeat the
That's
question
fine.
again. What do you think
Okay.
about the ban list released after this event? It didn't touch any of the top three decks at all. Windups and Sectors and Rescue Rabbit. So was that a mistake?
When I first saw the March 2012 ban list, I initially thought that it was a joke because it just totally didn't make any sense to me. Hitting cards that were already overwhelmed by the newer and more powerful stuff that just came out, it just seemed like a total joke. And that's why at that point I decided to strictly play heroes at the time, because again, the top stuff, it wasn't interesting to me, and it was just too powerful. So that's when I really started to think it was Konami's greed, just try to scratch the past decks, and even the synchro mechanic. And I know that it didn't completely die after that, but they were really promoting the new Xyz and the new support that was coming out with these new sets. And I just wasn't a fan of that. So in my opinion, the ban list was a mistake because it shouldn't have been the way that it was. But at the same time, I think it definitely wasn't a mistake because they knew very well what they were doing.
Okay. Um, so did you read the article series that I sent you? Konami's articles about the ban list.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what did you think about those articles? Do you think the players reacted well to them?
Yeah, so I read the articles, and I'm personally not convinced, nor do I think the players that read those articles at the time were convinced either. I think that most likely their reactions were, they just didn't agree with the way Konami was trying to justify their actions for the ban list, and I think that those reactions would be sound. Because yeah, I just don't think that the ban list, no matter what way they tried to justify it, I don't think it was correct. I don't think it made sense. And it didn't make sense why it would take so long for them to even release those articles to begin with.
Okay, so did you continue to play current format Yu-Gi-Oh after 2012? And do you think that you can enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh even when Konami makes mistakes with the game's balance?
I continued to play current Yu-Gi-Oh shortly after 2012. I played it till somewhat till the end of 2013. Um, it- when they got Stratos banned, which was a surprise to me because heroes were like tier 1.5 at best, like in general, that's when I totally just stopped playing the game. I don't think that I can really enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh when Konami makes these kind of mistakes. I remember it just progressively got worse with Dragon Rulers and spell books, and just in general, at that point, I just stopped keeping up with the game.
Okay. All right. Do you feel that power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh got worse going forward, or that it wasn't as much of a problem?
Uh, I personally believe that it did get worse, but considering the fact that I only played like
So sorry.
two
So
months.
what got worse? Can you say
Oh
the
yeah,
answer again with instead of it say power creep?
yeah, right.
Okay.
Um, I do feel that power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh did get worse progressively, but again, I did only play about two formats after the March 2012 ban list. So I can't quite comment on future formats like past 2013. Um, so I do think so, but I can't comment for modern Yu-Gi-Oh and what it's like today.
Okay. Do you want to just skip the duelist grounds question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Why do you like goat format?
I personally like GOAT format for numerous reasons. For one, it has that retro feel to it and is reminiscent of the cards and the game that I grew up liking, and not the new stuff that lost my interest really quickly. But at the same time, it wasn't too retro or slow like Critter format, for example, where the card pool was also too limited. To me, it really feels like a game of its own. I like how games actually last longer, how it's competitive. In my eyes, it's overall balanced, despite having cards like Pot of Greed and Delinquent Duo. And I also like that it has a fixed ban list. So there's no introduction of new cards that make old ones irrelevant. There's no surprises. Sure, the downside is it might get stale over time, but there's actually surprisingly a lot of diversity in this format. So I just pick one of the many decks I can play and switch them up from time to time.
Okay. Are you surprised at how much goat format has grown from 2012 until today?
In terms of player base, I'm not surprised how much GOAT format has grown for all these years, and I hope to see that it continues to grow. In terms of the state of GOAT format, I'm actually surprised because it's just changed a lot, going from just GOAT control mirror matches, and we've seen a lot of just potential in so many different decks and cards. So it's really interesting to see how formats can change over time for sure.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions. So thank you for taking the time to help me.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right.